Welcome back to the Top Shelf Literary Editions. This is episode 69. I'll allow you to get your giggles out of the way before we proceed. My name is Ernest Whiteman III. I'm a Northern Arapaho filmmaker, artist, writer, and media educator. And we're taking a look at the top shelf of my book collection. I have a pre-selected book. I'll do a short synopsis, a review if I've read it, and a reason why I purchased the edition. Now, the reason why I say a review if I've read it is like I buy a lot of books. Some sight unseen, some that I've heard a lot of, and some that I have a great interest in. And depending on the times I have, I'll either read through them quickly or take my time reading through them, or I'll read them in pieces. And some that I'll put down as my interest wanes and moves on to something else. Doesn't mean I don't dislike the book, but just that my interests shift every so often. But continuing with the theme of graphic novels, today's book is Scout, the Four Monsters by Timothy Truman. I first encountered the comic book Scout back in my early college days, and actually my mid-high school days, because I remember we would drive down to Cheyenne, Wyoming, and on one particular trip my brother Ken and I stopped at this comic book store and we saw issue number 1 of Scout War Shaman, the series that follows this one up. And we just remember seeing this big, tough-looking, badass Indian looking out at the cover at us, and that caught our attention. So we bought it and we read it. That first issue was painted, I believe, and it was sort of like resetting the world, or retelling the setting of the world that the Scout and his then sons were moving around in. And so that led us to scouring. When we found out it was a sequel series, we continued to try to buy as much Scout War Shaman as possible, but it also made us look for the original Scout series. Scout is about an Apache man who has joined the army of a dystopian future and decides to leave it behind to sort of re-engage with his Apache culture. Timothy Truman is not an Apache, but he's well researched in the myth and cultures of it, and I think he doesn't do anything super horrible or neglectful or hurtful or harmful. The cultural pieces are propped up to sort of propel the story forward, but I think Mr. Truman knows that there's some pieces of the Apache culture that he shouldn't be telling, and I think he's very aware of that. And this one we ordered online as a paperback edition, but when I moved to Chicago, I couldn't take that Scout trade paperback with me because it was not mine. But I decided to order a hardback edition. And this one is actually signed by Mr. Truman himself. There's a little plate in there, a book plate they called it. And this one tells the story not only of the origins of Scout, but the reason why he's sort of turned his way away from the government he was serving, and the 4 monsters that he must sort of slay as part of Apache mythology. It's a really cool story. It's probably the only non-native comic that I own, and apart from, well, that's it, really. There's been several Native American themed comic books that I just don't recommend. Scalped is number 1 among those. But this one makes it more of a fantastical element. It's thoroughly researched. and it doesn't try to subject its readers to grief porn. And Scout is just this character that's taking place in the story, and his beliefs and his culture sort of drive him. But so does the culture and beliefs of the people around him drive them. So that's what makes this pretty unique. It's the only, like I said, the only non-native comic that I own, and probably the singular one that I would recommend to people to read. But, you know, there's a lot of great comic books. The one that always comes to mind is Super Indian by Star Aragon, which I will recommend again. Scout for Monsters. That's on the top shelf for today. Highly recommend it. Thank you for joining me. I'll catch you next time.